Okay, I'm going to look at exponent expressions with multiple steps, or exponential expressions as well. And so what we're looking at is when you see something like this, a lot of people will get overwhelmed with what's going on with this kind of a problem. So what I like to do is I like to start out by grouping things. I see that the 2 and the 5 are just some constants. I see that I have two different types of variables here. I have a's, and then I have my b's. They both have their own exponents. So I'm going to go ahead and start by grouping them up. I can move, because the multiplication is commutative, the 2 times the 5 next to each other, and that's one step. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the a's to the 7th times the a to the negative 7th next to themselves. That's the second step. And then I've got the b's, so I'm going to do b to the 4th times b to the negative 2nd. From here, it's your choice which step you want to go next with. Some people will look at this and say, okay, this is 10, right? That we know is 10. We can do 2 times 5. That's easy. And then some people might say, okay, I'm going to move the a to the 7th. I'm going to deal with the negative exponent there. And I'm going to move the a to the 7th down, because I know that it's in the numerator and it needs to go into the denominator. So then I get a to the 7th over a to the 7th, which I know equals 1. So then I've got 10 times 1. And then somebody will say, okay, well, I've got a b to the 4th, which doesn't look like a 4. Sorry about that. And a b to the negative 2nd. So maybe we'll do the same thing we did here with the a's, and let's do that with the b's and go b to the 4th over b to the 2nd. And remember, when I move a negative exponent, it has a positive exponent, but it keeps the same exponent. It went from the numerator to the denominator because it was negative in the numerator, so I'm going to make it positive in the denominator. So now I've got this b to the 4th over b to the 2nd. I can expand that. 1, 2, 3, 4 b's over 1, 2 b's, but each time I have a b over b, that's just a 1. So I'm left with b squared. So I've got 10 times 1 times b squared, and that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to say, okay, I've got these, here's 10, 2 times 5 is 10, I know that. I've got these a's here, but I know that when I multiply, I add exponents. So I have a to the 7th plus a 7, and that's just going to give me plus a negative 7, as I was. Plus a negative 7. So I've got a 7 plus a negative 7, which ends up giving me a to the 0. I'll move my 10 down times a to the negative 7 times 7 gives me a to the 0, which I know is 1. So I write that as a 1. And then I've got over here, I've got b to the 4th plus a negative 2. And a positive 4, negative 2 gives me a positive 2. So I end up with b to the 2nd. So 10 times b to the 2nd. So either way I did it, whatever technique you decide to use, breaking it up like this or breaking up like this, you're still going to get the same answer of 10b to squared. So your answer is 10, it's 10b squared, no matter what technique you use. Okay, another type of problem that people are struggling with are these ones, where we're looking at multiple things going on in a fraction. We've got our constants there, and we've got our variables. There's two different variables. So again, I like to start out by grouping. One way to do that is to see that you can break them up into 3 different fractions. Oops, I lost my variable there. Let's do that again right there. All right, so what I really am looking at is a 10 over 25 times x to the negative 4th over x to the negative 2nd times y to the cubed over y to the 5th. Okay, and so I can first start by simplifying my fraction. 10, let's do 10 over 25. That's going to give me 5 times 2 over 5 times 5. There's another video that I have in the assignments that should help if anyone's having trouble with simplifying fractions. This gives me 1, so I end up with 2/5 as my fraction. So that's going to be part of my answer, and I'm going to write that over here. I'm going to write my answer somewhere else here. I'll put it in blue. So 2 over 5 is part of my answer. Okay, going back to now, we're looking at, let's start with the x's. So I have x to the negative 4th over x to the negative 2nd. One way to do it would be to move everything. So again, when we move stuff, this numerator goes into the denominator as positive. This denominator goes into the numerator as positive. So you could put x to the 2nd over x to the 4th. And you can either expand this out as x times x over x times x times x times x. Or you could use your rules of exponents. That's another way to do it, is to say x to the second minus 4. Either way, you're going to end up with, if you do it the expanded way, you end up with the same answer, just in different forms. So one answer you might end up with is x to the second on the bottom, or you can end up with x to the negative second on the top in the numerator. But I'm going to do the one on the bottom with the expanded form just because then I have positive exponents working. So now I have to do the y's. And so with the y's, since no negative exponents, I'm just going to go ahead and say that I know that y to the third minus 5, because when I divide and subtract, gives me y to the negative second. Because I use the law of exponents, I use that idea of when you divide exponents, you subtract, that y to the negative second is in the numerator right now. It's not in the denominator, it's in the numerator, and it's negative. So I feel like things are getting a little bit confusing over here. So I'm going to rewrite some of the answer we have so far. We have 2 over 5. And then I had x to the second over here. And then we were working with the y's right here. I was working with the y's. And I could put a y to the negative second here, but I want to take another second to break that down. We had y to the third over y to the fifth. So I said y to the 3 minus 5 gave me y to the negative 2, because negative 5 plus 3 gives me negative 2. There's another way to look at it too. If you want to go ahead and expand it out, you could do y times y times y over y times y times y times y times y. Doing it like this, you can see that the y to the second ends up on the bottom for sure. So you can write y to the second in the answer here. There. Both answers are pretty equivalent. So if you were to write another way to write it would be equals 2 x to the negative second, y to the negative second over 5. Or again, just x to the 2, y to the negative second over 5x to the second. It doesn't matter. It's all about what the person who's asking for the question wants.